What if I told you, you're committing a sin far worse than pornography, and God truly hates it? You go to Mass, pray the Rosary, maybe even fast and help at church. But if you're like most Catholics today, there's a high chance you're unknowingly falling into one of 6 deadly sins that Padre Pio warned about. And no, they're not what you think. Not lust. Not theft. Not murder. According to Padre Pio, a man who could read souls and speak with the invisible, some of the most dangerous sins are the ones no one talks about. They don't shout. They whisper. And that's what makes them so spiritually lethal. In this video you'll uncover the 6 hidden sins that Padre Pio believed grieved God more than any other, sins committed daily by people who seem devout on the outside, but who are spiritually blind on the inside. If your soul feels distant from grace, if your faith has grown cold without explanation, you may already be under the weight of one of these spiritual traps. But there is a way out. As Padre Pio once said, "The truth hurts, but it heals the soul." Her name was Clara. She was 63 years old, went to Mass every Sunday, volunteered at her parish, and prayed the Rosary daily before her little altar to the Virgin. To everyone around her, she was the image of a devoted Catholic. But everything changed during one confession with Father Elias. As she listed the same sins she always confessed, distractions, impatience, a few bad words, the priest looked at her, paused, and said something that shattered her. "Clara, you've been committing a grave sin for years, and you don't even know it." Her eyes filled with tears. Not out of fear of punishment, but because for the first time in decades she realized she may have been hurting God deeply, without ever intending to. Father Elias explained something few ever hear from the pulpit. Satan doesn't need to tempt you with scandal, when your pride or bitterness already keeps you far from grace. That confession shook Clara's soul. She left the church that day trembling. Not because she felt condemned, but because someone had finally pulled back the curtain on her quiet sins. The ones that hide beneath good appearances, but rot the soul from within. For generations, Catholics have been warned about sins of the flesh, lust, blasphemy, scandal. But few realize that Satan's most effective tools are not loud, they are silent. The most dangerous sins aren't always the ones that shock the world. They're the ones that quietly erode the soul while hiding behind habits, culture, or even false piety. Padre Pio understood this better than anyone. In countless confessions he saw how seemingly good Catholics, people who prayed, served, and looked holy, were deeply trapped in spiritual patterns they never even considered sinful. That's why this message isn't for the lukewarm. It's for those who are brave enough to ask themselves, "Am I offending God, while thinking I'm pleasing Him?" We are about to reveal 5 of the 6 hidden sins that Padre Pio believed caused deep sorrow to the heart of God. But it's the final sin that should disturb you the most. Because for generations, Catholics have been warned about sins of the flesh, lust, blasphemy, scandal. But few realize that Satan's most effective tools are not loud, they are silent. The most dangerous sins aren't always the ones that shock the world. They're the ones that quietly erode the soul while hiding behind habits, culture, or even false piety. Padre Pio understood this better than anyone. In countless confessions he saw how seemingly good Catholics, people who prayed, served, and looked holy, were deeply trapped in spiritual patterns they never even considered sinful. That's why this message isn't for the lukewarm. It's for those who are brave enough to ask themselves, "Am I offending God, while thinking I'm pleasing Him?" We are about to reveal 5 of the 6 hidden sins that Padre Pio believed caused deep sorrow to the heart of God. But it's the final sin that should disturb you the most, because it wears the mask of virtue. But beneath it lies a poison that destroyed angels and damns even the devout. Ours the mask of virtue. But beneath it lies a poison that destroyed angels and damns even the devout. St. Augustine once said, "Some sins kill slowly, because the soul no longer recognizes them as enemies." From the early desert fathers to mystics like Saint Teresa of Avila and saints like Faustina Kowalska, The Church has consistently warned about a second layer of sin, one that doesn't appear on the surface, but poisons the heart in silence. Padre Pio, in his letters and spiritual guidance, spoke repeatedly about the hidden sins, those that become invisible because they're disguised as personal habits, normal behavior, or even religious zeal. He warned that sins like spiritual pride, inner judgment, and cold indifference toward others are not only offensive to God, they are especially dangerous because they thrive inside the devout. And here's the insider truth few ever share. Padre Pio claimed he saw souls in purgatory, not for the sins we expect, but for the ones they never confessed, because they never knew they were sins. And many of them, he said, were religious people who prayed, fasted, and even taught others. What if you're unknowingly among them? Now we enter sacred territory. These are 5 of the 6 hidden sins that Padre Pio, and many mystics of the Church, warned about with urgency. Sins that wound the heart of Christ more than many realize. Sins that many Catholics commit daily, without guilt. Sin number 6, silent judgment. It doesn't come out of your mouth, but it lives in your thoughts. It's that inner look of superiority when someone doesn't dress like you, pray like you, or believe like you. Padre Pio said that spiritual pride, even in thought, offends heaven deeply. Sin number 5, lukewarm prayer. Going through the motions, saying the rosary without heart, attending Mass just to check the box. The saints called this lip service while the soul sleeps. And many taught that this kind of prayer offends God more than silence. Sin number 4, casual gossip. The harmless kind. The quick comment that just needed to be said. But every time we speak negatively of someone behind their back, we rip the body of Christ and open the door to spiritual division. Sin number 3, righteous bitterness. Saying, I don't hate them, but I'll never forgive them. Holding on to wounds while calling it justice. This form of spiritual pride hardens the heart and slowly chokes grace. Sin number 2, disrespecting the Eucharist. Receiving communion without confession, without reverence, without preparation. Padre Pio compared this to inviting Christ into a filthy room and locking the door. And yet, there's one more. The final sin is so hidden, so deceptive, that even priests, even leaders, may carry it without knowing. It doesn't look like sin. It looks like zeal. But it's spiritual poison, in disguise. 3 weeks after that confession, Clara returned to Father Elias. But this time she didn't confess in confusion. She wept, with clarity, with freedom. Why? Because once she saw her hidden sins for what they truly were, something in her soul broke, and something even deeper began to heal. The bitterness she carried for years dissolved. Her anxiety, the one she never understood, faded. She began to sleep peacefully again. And when she looked at others, she no longer saw people to criticize or compare. She saw souls just like hers, fragile, wounded, and beloved by God. You see, when someone brings these hidden sins into the light, healing begins. Not just spiritual healing, but emotional and psychological restoration. The weight leaves the heart. The mind clears. The soul breathes again. Even Catholic counselors and spiritual directors agree. Many modern struggles, depression, anxiety, resentment, are tied not only to trauma, but to unconfessed spiritual wounds. And just like Clara, you don't have to live in quiet suffering anymore. There's peace available. There's healing. There's grace. But only if you're willing to face the final sin. The one that still hasn't been named. The one that may be hiding in your life right now, wearing the mask of holiness. This final sin is the most dangerous of all, not because it's loud or violent, but because it looks like virtue. Many confuse it with faithfulness. Others call it defending the truth. But underneath the surface, carries the same poison that cast Lucifer out of heaven. Do you want to know what it is? Do you have the courage to face a truth that could shake the foundation of your spiritual life? Then comment below. Backhand index pointing right asterisk. Lord, reveal the truth to me. Backhand index pointing left. We'll release the second part of this message and uncover the sin that hides behind the mask of devotion. If this message spoke to your soul, subscribe now to Beyond Yourself. Because here we don't speak to entertain, we speak to awaken. You didn't find this video by accident. Your soul was led here. We'll see you in the next video. If you're still brave enough to look,